Adam Sherburne.
From Consolidated. This is San Francisco Rap Focus. Just heard from Consolidated right there with Chili B, and we gotta have peace. And that's from your forthcoming album, right?
Correct. Friendly Fascism.
Friendly Fascism, which is a cool title. Now, how did you hook up with Chili B, and how did you sort of venture into the rap? I mean, you started out, I mean, no one wants to be classified, but I guess people did call you industrial, like when you went to the record stores, right? That's where you were.
Yeah, well, everyone is inevitably classified, so are we. Some people still like that title. We just prefer to call ourselves bureaucratic entertainment specialists. You know, we play rock, we play all kinds of things. We colonize black culture and definitely look forward to people like calling us on that. We definitely try to expose certain fascist tendencies in industrial music and rock. Just use every stylism that we can. I understand that somebody's got us on one of the local rock rags as an industrial band this week, and it's somewhat ironic that I'm on the show talking to you about hip-hop. I don't claim to be an authority in either genre, but both seem relevant for different reasons. We try to employ both and other ones still.
Yeah, well, the name of this show is HipHopSlam, so I figure, I mean, to me, it's rap music. I mean, you gotta go not by the whole album, but by every song. And not even every song, sometimes every bit of every song. And like, as far as I'm concerned, this is rap music, this is hip-hop, and it's, you know, what you're talking about is relevant. One of the reasons why, I mean, I was before a rock fan or a punk, but I kind of got bored of it after a while, and that's why, like, hip-hop seems to be talking to me, and that's what I feel your record is doing too. I mean, you got a lot of stuff there, a lot of issues, and particularly the music industry. So is there like a risk that, you sort of bite the hand that feeds you?
Yeah, constantly. It's not a problem with us. We don't operate with a profit motive. You know, we seem to deal in the red, and so worrying about appeasing the music industry is not our priority. But it's interesting that you said, rap is speaking to you, and that punk rock seemed to have done that and fulfilled that need for several years, and then it was co-opted by industry forces and other capitalist forces. And it's quite apparent that that's happening to rap. The basic difference, of course, is punk rock is a bourgeois white phenomenon. Rap, of course, is another in a long line of very critical black cultural mediums. We tend to, use both, try to expose the necessary contributions from both genres. But hip-hop, carries a lot of weight, and it also stands to be diluted and destroyed by the small white male majority that control the entertainment industry. I see enough commercials on TV from cereal to clothes that have already sort of indicated the diffusement of hip-hop culture into more profit and capital-oriented areas. So, it has a lot to offer.
But also, by the same token, too, I think it's interesting how you'll have a band like Public Enemy who are, quote, I guess, a commercial success, distributed by Columbia Records, but yet they're talking about some serious issues. And they're getting played on commercial radio, whereas commercial radio isn't playing, other like punk bands today, right?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I didn't mean to say that I've got a problem with that. That's a fantastic vehicle for communication.
Yeah.
I can only champion that.
I wonder, though, like with the way rap, the way rock went, and sort of there became the two camps, the alternative underground and then the mainstream. I wonder if rap will like go completely between the two. That you'll have clearly like one side the underground and clearly the commercial rap.
Yeah, I don't know what constitutes underground anymore, except the new fundamentalist sort of cornering the FCC market. Obviously, when NWA came out, they were considered underground. Their transition from underground to mainstream was basically made in like one day. Same with Luther Campbell. Profit will hunt down anything and find a way to reconstruct it and reappropriate it for its own profit. And profit and capital will eventually take anything that's underground and find a way to make it mainstream.
So it could stay the same as far as content, but it's just the fact that it's commercially popular.
Yeah, I mean, the point is you try to extract from the genre what you can get from it and realize that these external forces are always sort of in action. Yeah. You just have to realize that a lot of people are expressing themselves, get what you can from it. Don't try to, listen to people, further categorizing rap as nasty or as positive or negative. It's just people expressing themselves. It's a very crucial sort of line in African American culture, and we should take what we can from it and use it positively.
Yeah. Now, when you do your shows, it's pretty good on the forthcoming album, which clocks in at over an hour, right? On the cassette and CD and LP. It's Friendly Fascism from Consolidated. It'll be out in about a month's time. But there's a bit where you, like I think you're a band that you definitely have to see in concert because you have the podium up there and you even open it up to the public, right? Where people can come up and say their bit and you capture some of that. Why don't you tell people like who haven't heard this yet about that?
Well, we've always been attacked for being too preachy, and we felt if we were going to accept that, we should at least let the audience drive, participate in their own show, get their money's worth. So for the last year's worth of touring, we have allowed the audience to get up on the mic and autonomously dictate what happens after our set. There's no music. It's not like a Geraldo show. We don't put plants in the audience. We just give the mic to the audience, and they can facial us. They can make questions, critiques, comments to either the band or the rest of the audience. And we found that tended to be the most valid and the most substantial of the information that we derived musically or ideologically over the last year, so it figured very prominently on this latest record.
You had some good comments too. It was sort of interesting. It was the girl came up and then like said one thing, and then you jump in, and then you had a guy who was on his way off to the Gulf, right?
Yes, correct.
And he didn't agree with you, but I mean, you gave him the mic there, and also there was a rapper. Was that Murder One?
Murder One is from Chicago. He's in an organized crime unit. Yeah, we met him by him jumping up on the stage and grabbing the mic and saying his piece in Tulsa, and then when we returned for the second leg of the tour in Chicago, he got up on the mic and jammed with us. And so this is just really great positive result.
The only thing was that when I was listening to it, you cut him off before he really got into his rap.
Yeah, we didn't want to expose him if the world hadn't heard him at his hardest.
Yeah.
So we figured, I'm sure, we'll be hearing a lot from him.
Because he was just saying, give me a funky beat, and then he was just starting to get going, and it's like, boom, and you faded out. Now, we wanted to hear like a couple of other songs from the forthcoming album, and the first one is the first single, which I don't think is in the stores yet, but it should be starting to get played on various stations, right?
I have no idea. I don't concern myself with that aspect of it.
Okay, well anyway, we're going to check it out. It's Brutal Equation. It's the first single from Consolidated's new album, Friendly Fascism, on KUSF, San Francisco's HipHopSlam. A Brutal Equation, that's the first single, although that's the album version from Consolidated's forthcoming album, Friendly Fascism. Adam Sherburne is in the studio with me. I'm Billy Jam, and you were saying that the 12-inch is totally different, more hip-hop-ish, right?
Yeah, the one that we just heard was definitely more of a dorky night guy rendition of the song. We have more of a bureaucratically competitive hip-hop version that's also available on the single, I guess. So, entirely different mixes, entirely different sort of ethic behind the song.
Right. Well, you get some good lines in there. Like you go, don't give it a F about recognition, and then you say, which is failing just like our career. Well, your career isn't really failing now, is it?
Well, it just depends if you don't consider starving and becoming schizophrenic as a result of having to sacrifice your family and your potential for employment just for the sake of getting ideas out to the public. Then no, we're doing fine.
But is it ever tempting to like go? Let's do a go Consolidated, go. Like do a pop song.
Yeah, well, we made an entirely concerted effort at making 3 pop albums. They don't sell, and that has to do with our ability to make popular music. It has to do with the machinery that was never put in place to ensure success for our records. We just make music. We've made pop music in the past. I think we might branch out from that in the future, but it's interesting that people tend to associate us with industrial music or with hip-hop when in fact our backgrounds are much more in a rock sort of understanding than that.
Yeah, and there's one song that I was saying earlier when we were chatting off mic about it. It reminded me of Camper Van Beethoven. It's called College Radio, and that's kind of a spoof on like the typical college radio band, right? Yeah,
I mean it's a very oversimplified notion of what were the origins of college radio, or what legitimated college radio in the eyes of the larger Hollywood music biz. It's just a small anecdotal sort of song. I'm sure everyone will get the joke when they hear it.
It's interesting, though, how college radio has sort of transformed into what it is today. I mean, now it's an important part of the music industry, as major, more so because it's breaking new artists.
Yeah, once again, another function of the control mechanism of the larger industry.
I wonder if in the future, something else will come up as an alternative, like if there'll be AM stations that you can buy cheaply and people just sort of go free for all and really go wild.
It doesn't matter. You're buying it somewhere. So, as long as people are buying it.
Money changes everything, right?
Well, yeah, and since money has been the primary ideology of everything for the last 400 years, I don't think the context of music is going to change too much. Maybe if people stop making records and they just start making music as a function of their everyday reflection on life and play it for their family or their buddies, the way hip-hop evolved initially, then people will get something out of it. Otherwise, it's essentially going to remain in a sort of repressive commodity stage forever.
That's your approach, pretty much.
That's
though.
our approach. I'm not speaking for anyone else.
Right. Well, I mean, since that is your approach, and like I saw you a year ago at the Gavin Report, which is like full of radio industry types and music. I mean, is that a contradiction though to go out there, or you think that's just sort of a brave step to go out?
For us?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, we're a huge contradiction, or hypocrisy, or conflict. We try to deal with all three. It's not like we're proving any points by beating the system. We're part of it. It definitely erodes our sensibilities and our legitimacy, and yet, we don't feel bad about that. That's what it's all about, is trying to recognize that which is constantly tearing away at your integrity and your own singular vision, and just deal with it.
Yeah. When you make the music with this forthcoming album, Friendly Fascism, like, do you have in mind like any sort of one group or any one person, or is it just purely like what you want to say and whoever will listen to you?
With this last record, we try to reflect on what happened from the time we'd released the previous record. We toured a lot. We became professional bureaucratic entertainers for a half a year. So we abandoned jobs and families for the most part, and that was very damaging. And it was damaging to our sense of community and our sense as citizens. So we just tried to reflect on what happened from being a band full-time for 1 year, and that's that combined with the comments and the contributions of people in the crowds where we played, that sort of made this album.
Yeah. As far as the different issues, I mean, what I like about it is it's like there's so much going on. It's like listening to NPR for an afternoon. I mean, you got a lot of good topics in there. And there's one that's really interesting, and I believe it's actually it's a woman in San Francisco. It's the sexual politics of meat. That's Carol Adams. Right?
Carol J. Adams, correct.
Yeah. Why don't you tell people a little bit about that? Because I found that intriguing, because I'd never heard of her, this whole theory before.
I'm sure most everybody that's not a member of some vegetarian society or feminist vegetarian organization is completely ignorant of her. We are too, and were until we read The Sexual Politics of Meat. Philip, who's not here, took a great interest in wanting to go meet her in Dallas, Texas, so we did. She agreed to sit down and talk with us on tape and sort of illustrate some of the basic concepts of the relationship of the oppression of women, the exploitation of women, the exploitation and oppression of other species to us. And we docked it all on tape, and we came back and we stuck it on a beat. And if people are motivated to go pursue further information regarding the tenets of feminist vegetarianism, great. They happen to be some of the policies that we're very interested in, some of the ideology that we like to study. If other people can get any mileage or use out of it, and that's really good for us.
Yeah. You also bring up a lot of other topics, too, that many people, sadly, especially San Francisco bands, don't deal with, and that's like homophobia and like racism and different, crimes of hate that occur and are on the increase.
Yeah, it's tragic that even though the industry is very receptive to bands espousing political agendas, there doesn't seem to be any core of cultural movement devoted to the concept of unity of oppression, which deals with all of these things as very critical components of one larger institutional form of oppression. There's a lot of people that have agendas based on the oppression of certain isolated communities. When we try to put them all together and say, how can you love one and have hatred for another, is the overall way we would like to have people look at it.
Yeah, the irony of America today, or life in general. But anyway, Unity of Oppression is the title too, and that's the one Philip, who couldn't be here, called up and said make sure we play it, which we're definitely going. It's going to be the second single, and it opens up, we'll be checking out in just a second, but it opens up with Our Leader, which I really like. It's a great collage. You got like the KK, like things from Bush and things about the KKK. So who is it does that? Who does all the mixing? Like who's constantly taping television?
All three of us, either tape and radio. Our friends, there's plenty of media files that we stay in touch with. Just try to get information that you can reappropriate in a way that might be useful for people. Obviously, when I watched 2 minutes of the all-star celebrity salute to our troops and our leader the other night, I was puking the whole time, but I found it worthwhile to document anyways for the future. If people can understand the ridiculous resemblance from that to Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will, maybe people can start understanding the connections between German fascism in the 30s and American liberalism fascism of the 90s. So there's plenty of people taping everything out there, sampling, taping. You just have to not drive yourself crazy with the amount of information you can access for yourself and maybe get something positive from it.
Yeah, it certainly is amazing how people don't, history repeats itself and people don't see it. It just sort of goes over their head. And also, too, the way the media, I mean, most people, they get their source, it's really just sort of a propaganda machine from the Pentagon, really, basically what they're getting. What would you say is the best source for information, like on the war? Where do you find?
We haven't gotten any. The whole point is the entire, like NPR is a perfect example of a line of information that was always critical of American imperialism. As soon as the formal war began, they were immediately shut down. So it's not like, the question is not finding a superior source of information, it's learning how to deconstruct all the information you're getting and realize how it's positioned that way, how we're made to receive all different forms of information coming from different areas. Simply, a vast majority of it is being mediated through large corporate government interest, like you said, but the idea is just learn how to get information, print, TV, radio, and not allow yourself to be brainwashed.
Allow yourself to be brainwashed. Allow yourself to be brainwashed.